playing out this evening. I'm going to turn us to our studios in Cape Town, where we're joined by political analyst Melanie Verwoerd. Melanie, thanks very much for joining us. Now, you are a former ANC stalwart, and you know the machinations of this party and how it works. So we're in Irene. We're into the 8th hour now. Should we expect this to go long?
I would think so, Peter. I think this is going to be a very long night. I think if this was going to be resolved quickly, we would have had some sense of that by now. Remember, if I recall correctly, when it was the same situation with Thabo Mbeki, I think they went over 2 days. I think they started on the Friday and continued into the Saturday. And it was only then that they came out with a statement. And I think with Thabo Mbeki, it was most probably less complicated than it is now. So I think the mere fact that they are still talking is a sign that it could go on for a long time. I don't know if it's correct, but a rumor I heard from somebody who was inside said that by 7 o'clock when they were having dinner, that only 17 people have spoken. And of course, the way the NEC works is that whoever wants to speak gets an opportunity to speak, and they can speak as long as they want to in order to convince each other so that they don't have to vote, that they get to some form of consensus. So we might not even have a decision tonight. We might only have it tomorrow.
So one hears arguments for and against particular matters or motions. How do they then get to the consensus? Is this a chairperson that's kind of reading the mood of the room, or how do they get to a consensual position?
So I was never on the NEC, so I've never been in an NEC meeting, but I can tell you from other ANC meetings that usually would happen is people would argue for a very long time. It's quite impressive to see it in action. And then at some point, either somebody would get up and say, as I read the room, and would make a sort of very strong summary, which there is then a general sense of yes, yes, and then the chair would say, so we therefore agree. And thus they get consensus. Alternatively, sometimes the chairperson would come up. The danger with what we are facing now, of course, there are various options that can play out tonight. The first one is that they sort of have a majority view that Jacob Zuma must still stay on. I doubt that that is on the cards. But then the other alternatives are, of course, one, that they agree that he should be recalled, but that he resigns within the next few days. The second one is that they agree that he should be recalled, but that he won't. And then, of course, you have to go to a vote of no confidence. The third one, which would be very problematic, is, in fact, if they don't make a decision, so that they get into another round of talks. And that the ANC often does. When they struggle to make a decision, they put a process in place rather than to make a very divisive decision. And that would be most probably the biggest concern I have for tonight, is that they actually, in the end, don't make a proper decision or a decisive decision on the matter.
Is that something that they can afford not to do? I mean, given it's very hard to gauge the national mood, but what we do see are stalwarts, MK vets, members of the party, all suggesting that it should go one way. Can they afford, especially if they're trying to build this new ANC, to have all these voices ignored and not come to a decision?
I think it would be a very, very bad thing, and it would send out a very, very bad signal. First of all, to the markets, to overseas investors. But the biggest problem with it is that it will show that Cyril Ramaphosa does not have control over the NEC. And I think that would be the biggest concern of it all. Ultimately, at some point, they will have to make a decision. It's not that they can never make the decision. The question is just, are they going to make it tonight or by tomorrow?
Do you think that the elective conference gave the NEC a mandate or an instruction that was clear? Because if that is the case, then surely they must just do the will of the party.
Well, that's the difficulty with what happened at Nasrec, of course. As you know, we were both there. Cyril Ramaphosa won with 179 votes, so strictly speaking, only with 90 votes. So if Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma got 90 more votes, she would have won. And the rest of the top 6 was always something that the Zuma camp was happy to live with. They had their 3 main candidates, being Ace, Jesse, and Didi Mabuza, but then they were always happy to live with Gwede Mantashe and with Paul Majatile. So really the only thing that happened was that they didn't expect Cyril Ramaphosa to win. And the difficulty is that even at the NEC level, we haven't tested the NEC. We haven't seen what will happen if they get to this kind of very difficult position. And we know from Nasrec's time that certainly it was very close to 50-50. Now, I have no doubt that Cyril Ramaphosa has made some progress, and it's certainly won over a lot of people. And also, of course, people just migrate to where power is for their own self-interest. But the point is that the conference did not give a very clear mandate in that respect. And I think that's exactly why Jacob Zuma is digging his heels in, and also why he is saying, I'd rather want the NEC to make a decision than the top 6 or even the NWC.
All right, Melanie, we're going to have to leave it there. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but thanks very much indeed for your insights. And I guess all we can do is hurry up and wait. That was Melanie Verwoerd speaking to us from Cape Town, political analyst, former member of the ANC, giving us some insights on what